Hi guys, this is Drinks and Mics. Yeah, you can see the drinks on the tables. Yeah, I just took a sip of that. It was pretty. I still don't know exactly what it is, but I think we'll get into that later. My name is Tunji Andrews, and here with some of my great friends, and we're going to just be having conversations around everything that concerns us: economy, lifestyle, generally always revolving around money. But yeah, let me have my co-guests, co-anchors basically introduce themselves. I'll start with Arnold.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Arnold Dublin Green, and welcome to Drinks and Mike. That one. Okay.
Hey, I remain Ugodre. Welcome to Drinks and Mics. So we're gonna do this quite often. Possibly, maybe these are very busy rich men and busy big boys who you don't get to see all the time. So if we can do this every week, then it's likely going to be every week. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
It makes sense. It makes sense. It makes sense.
Definitely. Every
As
Friday.
long as there's always something to talk about, we'll be here to have those conversations on a regular basis. But super excited. We have a few things that we wanted to talk about today. Ugodre, let's start with you because his topics really sound very interesting.
Yeah,
Right? Yo.
I feel like I needed a study session before I came here today. Let's see.
When I saw the
very
Whats-
serious.
the
Yeah,
WhatsApp group,
intense.
I saw
Or are
I
we
saw his
geeking out?
message. I was like, I googled it and I was
Yeah.
like, okay,
Uh-huh.
all right, so I have something to talk about.
Anyway, I've got a lot of stuff on my mind, man. A lot of stuff I want to talk about. But before that, what's with these things you guys are wearing, though? Like, I mean, now I feel different. Like,
You need to get
I
involved.
never
So
could wear,
for me, it's I have quite a few more, and I collect when I go to a city that is cultural.
Okay.
So one is from Rwanda,
Oh, nice.
Kenya, Egypt. So so I still have a few in the house
yeah.
that I have not put on.
Okay.
I can only put four. If I could have more, I'd have done that. But yeah.
So same
What's
for me.
yours,
I've got
mid-story?
quite a few as well.
And yours
so
is like beads or something.
mine are beads, yeah. So mine local African, same thing. Different African countries that I've been to, and I try to get.
Dude, I can't wear anything more than a
Ghanaian
wristwatch. Like, I just
and
feel
Kenyan.
like I just feel like
So
there's a lot of
if I
stuff
go
stopping me.
to an African country and I'm trying to go to all now,
Yeah.
if I go to an African country, the one thing I want to do is go to the local market and
Yes,
find the
same.
stores.
Yes,
Yeah, where they
yes,
sell
yes.
this.
Yes.
Wow.
Same thing.
Wow.
Same
It's
thing.
an experience, man.
Same
You
thing,
should.
yeah.
You should.
Beads and art. I try to collect
I
them.
bought a few, but I never just get around wearing them.
You should get
You should.
involved.
The markets in Morocco, for instance, beautiful. It's actually,
So,
What's
like,
what city did you go to
how-
Morocco?
I think I've forgotten the name, but it was the
Okay.
main city.
Okay.
But it was not me alone. It was me and a
Yeah.
couple of people.
Okay.
It was paid for. Yeah, those
Yeah,
tech
of course.
industry things.
Of course.
But yeah, it was exciting to go. And then there was this treasure hunt that was happening in that particular market. So we're
Okay.
doing some sort of going around finding landmarks. It was pretty interesting.
Is that already have Marrakesh? And where you go?
I think so. Yeah.
It sounds
yeah.
like Marrakesh.
Yeah.
I haven't been to Marrakesh. I've been to Casablanca, but it's pretty much the same in
It's
terms of the
pretty much,
markets
yeah.
and everything's.
It was really
Yeah.
interesting. I really liked it. I really, really liked it. But yeah, so Ugodre is going to tell us about his topic, and then we'll
Okay.
get into the.
All right, guys. So
Until
what's
the
been
day.
on my mind has been this exchange rate yo-yo. So I want to start
Okay.
with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just start with the
Why
serious
money?
stuff.
Yeah.
Why is it going up? Why is it coming down?
Yeah, because I mean, after like the frenzy this time last week, like it was hitting a 1.5. In fact, I was the office, and then someone came around and was like, "Dude, man, I sold like 400K for like 1.5." I'm like, "Dude, you serious?" Yeah, like he had to sell because he needed that money quickly and all that to pay some bills. And at that time, it was like 1.550, 1.56. So I made a few calls to BDC guys, and it was like, man, everybody's selling, nobody wants to hold. And so it was almost like, you know, we're going to see like maybe 1.4s by this week. And then everything just
switched again.
Like on Sunday. So, I mean, it's pretty difficult trying to figure all these things out. But here's my own hypothesis. I've been trying to I don't want to call it theory, just hypothetical. And this is based on a few guys that I've spoken to. And it kind of looks like we have two markets. So you have that official market where You have, the CBN directing how things flow in there with the new EFEM system or FM system.
Yeah.
And then you have institutional investors right there buying and selling. Nobody really knows what the volume is or what the turnover is. I don't think we've started publishing that yet. I've heard a few numbers brandished here and there.
Yeah.
You probably know better than me, Arnold. But then there's still that black market where if you don't provide supply in that market, then things would always revert back to me. Yeah,
exactly.
And so I kind of think that's what happened. So I think there was a little bit of confusion within, is this now going to be setting the rates for all markets? And then all of a sudden, I kind of feel speculators figured out that, hey,
it's not.
Looks like, that supply is not flowing in here. And then BDCs as well, who were also meant to also, buy from that official market, can't actually access the market yet because it's not automatic. And that's what they told us. So they said, look, we don't have the trading engine yet, and some of us haven't hit the capitalization target that they were given from the central bank. So you really can't, you can't access that market. And so for that reason, they're still on the streets, man. And that's where we are now. And I'm hearing we're like 1745 today.
So it's crazy because I'm hearing 2 or 3 rates today from the BDCs. This is not even the NAFEM or the EFEM markets. I'm hearing 17, I'm hearing 1620 something, and I'm also hearing 1545. And this is from the BDCs. So it's getting even more distorted because we're trying to figure out what's going on, where the real price is. I mean, last week for me, one of the reasons why we had that pull down, like you said, we had the new mechanism come in. Then we had a Eurobond issuance of about $2.2 billion.
Yep.
So there's a whole sentiment behind that. It's, what does it mean? Does it make a difference to anyone, to anything? Are they going to use that to shore up the capital? Or is it going to go to the FX reserves? And then you had this OMO auction that only foreign investors can get involved. And it was about 2 trillion naira or so worth of OMO. So you had all of this stuff happening. So I guess speculators felt that this would give naira some strength. And all of a sudden, we also found out that the central bank is at 1499 or 1489 or whatever. So we had the pull down. And then we're expecting the pull down I guess the assumption was 1499 is the price, or 1400 is the price. The budget came out to FX at 1400, so everyone thought, okay,
maybe that's
is
the target.
Going to be, and then the distortion that we're all trying to figure out is between the parallel or black market and this NAFEM market, what market follows what markets? We don't know. Does the NAFEM follow parallel or parallel follow NAFEM? It depends on who you ask.
But I think the CBN has a unique opportunity because it does feel like people are paying attention to this new system they've created.
Yeah, they are.
So it's like, can they? So it's like a lot of the conversations we have in tech where you build a product to do something, and then your customers are using it to do something else. And then you kind of just quickly pivot to what it's doing, right?
Yeah.
So the CBN should pay attention to this whole movement and be like, okay, if everybody felt this was going to be what would lead the market in terms of pricing, why don't we just make it?
Yeah. Well, my question is, does it really make a difference? And when I ask that is, okay, we have this short-term pull down to 1.4, but we still have the fiscal deficits, we still have the issues, right? So when I look at the markets, this is all nice for trader to come in and out. But really, myself, other investors and clients are thinking, where is it going to be in 6 months? Where is it going to be in 1 year? What does it mean for me? What does it mean for you? So we have this, is this sustainable? So most of us think it's not because
exactly. So I mean, I think the fundamentals do matter at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, as I've always said, there's a difference between value and price. So you can say, look, the value is probably 1.2 to the dollar or thereabout if you use PPP and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, but the reality is the price, and because that's what people are paying for it now. And the point is that you don't have enough supply yet. Right, there's just not enough supply in the streets. That is,
there isn't.
And then even if there's supply, it appears maybe you have some kind of fragmented supply that has a way of still dictating price. So I think for the next few weeks, if not months, you're still going to see the parallel market dictate where price goes to until there's some kind of supply equilibrium, or we kind of see a bridge between the parallel market supply and the official market. Now, you guys, if you remember, sometime in, I think it was 2018, 17 actually, we were somewhere around here when they started this IRE window. What kind of happened then was that So the INA window started seeing a lot of supply, and then the BDCs were now getting a lot of supply as well, even though it was CBN that was effectively selling. And so that, in a way, kind of help sort of bridge the price. So we're not there yet. And I think so long as we're not there, you're always going to see this volatility. So that's my own
But
issue,
you know, the thing I was going to ask Arnold, there was a conversation about Eurobond, which is issued. I know we didn't take a lot of money off the table, but I mean, first talk to us about it. But I'm feeling somewhere that we're trying to use some of this money to settle our deficit, our gaps, and all those things. But it should help, shouldn't it?
Well, I think in terms of debt raising, it helps. And I also think sentiment-wise it helps. So the Eurobond, Nigeria issued 2 Eurobonds. One was a 6.5-year Eurobond, which matures in 2031 for about 9.6 or 9.3%.
Wow, close to junk, man.
Yeah. And then a 10-year Eurobond at 10.375%.
We are patriotic.
Yeah. So we can't say junk.
We can't say junk.
Cameroon is worse. The 2031 Cameroon bond is a 10.88. I'm not sure if I could say Cameroon is worse.
Damn.
But Cameroon is worse. But it was about $2.2 billion altogether. But the demand for it was about $4 billion each, so 4-point-something billion, so maybe like $9 billion dollars demand. So the market wants it, right?
Why wouldn't the market want it?
Yeah, because I mean, even as a local investor, for a 6.5-year, you'll give me almost 10% a year.
Dude, man,
Right?
that's
If I think the Naira is
Yeah.
useless, if I think Naira goes down, I think inflation goes up.
Please, Naira is strong. Please,
If I think Naira isn't the best currency, if I think Naira isn't the best currency, then I'm buying a Eurobond and getting 10%. If I think inflation is sticky at 30-something%, if I think interest rates stay up.
Not even that, to imagine that there was a time you could buy treasury bills for 10%. 10%. Last year. Treasury was like 10%. Now you're freaking getting Eurobonds at 10%.
Yeah, that's where we are.
Damn, man. Anyway, guys, that's what's been on my mind this week. For the first topic on my mind. So, over to you, Arnold.
Yeah, I mean, mine was one of the main things, Eurobond issuance and what it means, especially for investors, local investors more than foreign investors, because we're sitting here, we're trying to figure out what it means. And I wanted to just get your view on it. Is on the one hand, you could say that Nigeria needed to issue these bonds, right? We need an alternative source of funding, because last year that we collateralized our oil. For like 900 basis for about 11% for a 5-year loan. And then on the other hand, the worry is if you're issuing a Eurobond at 10%.
10%. What's going on?
Are you going to be able to pay that back?
Yeah.
So the default
and it
worry,
also kind of feels like you're a bit desperate.
It is.
To just go to that price point.
That's what it is. Also remember a few weeks before that, there was a local Eurobond issued around 9.75% for a 5-year. Around $900 million was raised. So I wanted to pick your brains on it to see what are you guys thinking about this Eurobonds? And from that perspective, is there a default risk? And as an investor, should I be buying it if there's a default risk? But at the same time, my Naira assets aren't doing well because of inflation. T-bills might be 1-year T-bills 29-30%, but you're still getting negative real yields, right?
If I'm in Nigeria and I'm a Nigerian basically living in Nigeria and I have a lot of my assets in Naira, this is a no-brainer. I mean, we just talked about the FX volatility moving here and there. The 10% speaks to not just the 10%, but it speaks to what the value of the Naira will be when I get back that money. Then it speaks to the fact that it wouldn't have been eroded by inflation. So many factors. So by the time it's coming in, it's not just 10%. It's like 10% plus X, and we don't know what X is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, I would say that it's not so much of whether it would default, or not. I'm more optimistic in that regard. I don't think we will default.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't rule it out 100%. But I think the chances are pretty slim.
Okay.
And that's because
No, I feel the same way too.
If you check the way that our bond repayments, our bond obligations, when they fall due, it's actually quite well spread. I know there's one that comes in February. I think $500 million or thereabout. So
2025.
I think some of the gist is that maybe this might just refinance that one and all that repaid.
Most likely will. Yes.
So I don't think we're close to that. That's one. Secondly, we will borrow. We will even need to borrow more. Because if you check the NTF, projected fiscal deficit is 13 trillion. About 8 trillion of that is going to come from new borrowing, and that new borrowing is always going to be partly forex, foreign debt. So there's even going to be more.
So, but what does that mean? What does that mean for yield, for interest?
So good point. And then if you even look at the budget projection, it appears interest rate is even going to be interest payments or debt servicing is now higher than recurrent expenditure.
Yes.
So what it means at the end of the day is it is inevitable that taxes will play a much larger role in the next few years for a lot of Nigerians, because that's the only way we can pay those bonds. So if I was going to tell you, Arnold, what you should be looking at in terms of your default, triggers, it should be our tax to GDP ratio or tax to revenue ratio. So if we're not meeting those targets or we're not increasing it, then you got to be worried.
What can we? Right. So
is that what time we're dealing?
It should be doing that. But guys, let's go on a short break, fill our cups, and come back and still talk more about these conversations that we have. It's getting interesting. We'll be right back.
Okay, guys, welcome back to Drinks and Mike. We were just talking about defaults and the potential defaults and what it means. Tunji, you talked about tax collections and how I guess your view being that we don't have to worry about the rise in debt levels as long as we are collecting enough to be able to service this debt.
I like what they're doing with the tax collection conversation. I'm not sure it's going to go a long way.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if we're going to get new sources of tax collection, because it's one thing to create the law. It's another thing to create the mechanism to collect.
Yeah.
Because even the more sophisticated taxpayers, you still find out that the tax authorities still have to go after them. It's not like, there's this straight mechanism where they just, when you get your money, taxes are automatically deducted and things like that. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done with taxes. But all in all, I'm still not worried about default.
All right, but we always have windfall taxes, right?
There's
always another industry to look for that's doing better than it should be doing.
Like I said, I think it's always the worry for me really is FX. That's always been the worry. So not default or not fiscal default. Fiscal driven defaults. Default. So FX would always be the problem. I think that they probably don't know how to run. The reason why I say that is because I don't see how they're able to ramp up crude oil production to the level where
to that 2 million barrels.
They can really have enough FX or have enough.
Have we ever been at $2 million?
We were 2.2 a few years ago.
That was like
2.2, 2.1.
You didn't have all these.
Because budget
you didn't have all these beards back then. You read these bills then.
That was when we had the African consumer story. Where
you know what I mean?
It was like 200 million bioproducts in Africa rising, the black continent.
I hear they steal most of it now, so I don't know. So so that's why I think it's tax. So you're gonna see them more aggressive with tax collection next year. And
can businesses afford? As a business, right? You have your debt servicing is increasing, right? Because now interest rates, you're probably at 30-something%, and now you also have to get this tax. So what happens to your bottom line?
So here's the thing.
And then how much money do you have to make to service your debts, grow your business, and then pay?
No, I don't even think that is the problem.
Okay.
The problem that they would face is relying on the same people who pay tax to continue to pay tax.
Yes. That's the thing.
And that is a problem because
widening the tax net.
Because the economy is still largely informal. I think it's a big problem. Where you have, according to the NBS, 90% plus of your employers or your entrepreneurs are in the informal market.
Yeah.
How are you going to collect taxes from them? So I think that is really the problem. So, to just end this, they do have certain benchmarks that they have to meet. And I already told you one, tax to GDP ratio is pretty important that they meet. Then when you look at that, those unemployment numbers, how many formal markets, or how many times, or to what extent have we been able to chip into the informal market so that we can convert more to formal? I think those are the sort of benchmarks you're seeing. And one other outlier as well is they're doing a GDP rebasing next year. So that could change the dynamics.
I'm so
I also heard
excited
inflation
all of it.
rebasing
Yes, that's also happening as well. So all of a sudden, the numbers might just be looking nice.
Very
You know what I
interesting.
mean?
We overtake South Africa again.
But you know, sorry to go back on this, but you know, with that informal markets, I realized that this payment guys, this payment businesses all pay money. They're in the informal market. So
but you
one
see,
of the ways they could actually,
they're not focused on those kind of collections. They're not even focused on those kind of collections.
Right?
So for me, well, shameless plug, we are thinking about solving that.
Okay.
And the conversation really is around ensuring that the channels to make those payments are readily available, and it's simple to do. And the thinking for me a lot of the times is, if you speak to the government, somebody that was never paying taxes, if they start paying 50, 100 naira every month, that was 50, 100 naira that the government never had to begin with. And of course, by the time you have that base, you can always start to increase gradually. But first of all, get them into the tax net with some sort of mechanism. And we have a solution. We'll be sharing it.
So is this to the payments, or is this just paying taxes?
So it's payments, but it's tied to, it's like a whole bundle of benefits, but it does more things than just taxes.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So my conversation, about a week or so, 10 days ago, Nigeria's GDP numbers came out.
Okay.
And normally I really don't think about it, but I saw the headline with the president, giving a small, whoop-de-doo, like, hey, 3.4, and a few thoughts came to my mind. The first is, and I know everybody's rolling their eyes at the conversation of GDP. People really just feel GDP is some promissory notes and things like that. And I get it. But I want to take our minds back to about 2011, when we hit 6.9% GDP, probably our highest GDP score ever, or at least in the last maybe 20, 30 years. Now, there were a few things that happened around that 6.9 GDP growth. One was that it had $100 per barrel crude oil, accumulating for a few years. And GDP is always that promise of something to come. It's that promise of productivity. It's not like it's here. But because there's GDP, you understand that expansion leads to more jobs. More jobs leads to more productivity, leads to more disposable income. It just leads to a wider, more robust economy. At 3.4% GDP, I worry that the president is excited about it. And I'll explain why.
Okay.
If you look at every country, Donald Trump, make America great again. Something to be excited about. Something to spur belief. Something to spur... I mean, you might have your issues with Donald Trump, but make America great again.
I want is renewed hope now.
Renewed hope.
In what? So my point is...
In the Nigerian story.
So my point is this. If you're excited by 3.4% GDP, it worries me that a 4% might just be enough for you. But I also feel that Nigeria needs to be doing at least 8% GDP for maybe 6 to 7 to 8 years for it to actually translate into money in people's pockets. Because an 8% GDP growth over that period of time starts to increase to more robustness. You would be more excited to hire more people because an 8% GDP regularly would bring more people into the economy. It will bring something, more investment will start to look our way. It will start to create more jobs. It just creates a multiplier effect. We in this room cannot be the ones to champion whatever Nigerian dream that it is. The renewed hope just even sounds very depressing. It sounds depressing.
Oh my
But I mean,
god!
I feel like you're a little bit hard on
Even
Nigeria.
even
If you look at the world
so
globally, GDP growth.
let's go back. Let's go
GDP
back. Let's go back
2011
a
to
bit.
now, we're in a different
So
global
remember
environment.
exactly, and that's
Right,
what I'm
so,
saying. We
yeah.
took that for granted.
Yes.
We took it for
So
granted.
we've got
We
to take
really
it with
did. We were in the middle of plenty.
Yes.
And we were just
yes.
bathing in it. We didn't just
US
think about
yields were
I mean,
minus what
we were
Japan
just
was minus
really
whatever.
flexing. Everybody was really
It was the carry trade. Everyone was borrowing dollars, buying naira assets. It was great
good.
times,
It was a great time. I
Yeah.
remember that flight tickets within Nigeria was at 10K. It was really a great time.
Yeah.
But we need to come back to that, and the only way we can come back to that is from a national perspective.
Yeah.
Now we were talking off the mic, off camera, and you were saying, "What's our headliner?"
Yeah.
What's the headliner? There was Africa Rising for a number of years. I mean, the last time we got to 6.9, Nigeria was being spoken about joining the BRICS.
Okay. Well.
South Africa had just joined at that time, and there was this rumor about putting Nigeria in it and becoming BRICS. And this was off the back that we were just
and there was next was Turkey,
Nigeria,
Egypt, Turkey.
Minks or whatever.
As well,
You see what I'm saying?
Well.
A lot of those things do look like Hollywood.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it translates into, even Ghana did it.
Okay.
About 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Well, the year of the return. 2019.
Do you get my point?
Yes.
Nigeria doesn't have a headliner.
Okay.
That can spur our growth. That we can all get
our
behind.
headliner could be cheap assets.
Wow.
Everything is cheap, right? So come and buy it.
But we need to we need to have something inspiring. We need to have something inspiring. Something that, for me, it could be anything. It could be whiskey. It could be, even President Goodluck Jonathan, former Goodluck Jonathan had the cassava bread thing, as silly as it sounded at the time, But
But we have CNG now.
CNG is not unique to us, though. We're not number one in CNG. We don't. I think we're still in.
But we have CNG, sure.
We have.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that there's still a lot. What is our headliner? What is the Nigerian dream? Renewed hope in what?
In the country.
Can everybody feel the depression in what we're talking about? Because this just feels.
But America first is a slogan. America first.
No. But what I was even talking about when I mentioned Donald Trump. So the Make America Great Again was a slogan, but it wasn't just a slogan.
I know. It was about trying to bring manufacturing back to America and all that.
America first.
Exactly.
So here is what you're basically trying to say that I like. I agree. I think so. Renew hope sounds kind of hollow because you really don't know what you're trying to like. Like they tell you, hope is nothing without a plan or whatever. And so we don't know whether are we saying like we need hope in manufacturing, in
oil and gas,
in government, in what? So it kind of sounds
it could be anything, right?
Yeah,
it could be the people are great.
Yeah.
We want to start exporting
So I
jobs.
guess maybe ask yourself what makes us unique.
No.
From that standpoint?
We need to hope. Fortunately, unfortunately, I think comes from Hope 93. And if you remember, Hope 93 during Abiola's election, it was about...
I didn't even connect that.
Yeah, it was about people trying to be hopeful about a better future, a better Nigeria.
Okay.
So I think maybe I kind of think because Tinubu was, of course, part of that whole movement back then. I probably still resonates with him till today.
Okay.
But to Tunji's point, which I tend to agree as well, I think we're going to need a different slogan, something that...
something tangible.
It was just like Buhari's one was next level. Like, next level what? Stress? Do you get? So we need something to sort of focus everyone's mind.
So is it a slogan for us, for our
like
patriotism?
Or
$1 trillion economy. Isn't that
was what you want a slogan for our
something like that. Something we could all start to... So think about all the many things that came around financial inclusion. Think about the many products that came through financial service providers. Every bank had a financial inclusion department.
Yeah.
Even though at the end of the day,
and to be fair, or to your point, during Obasanjo's time, they did have this proudly Nigerian kind.
Yes, there was when we created when we backed Transcorp. It was supposed to. We wanted to build the Nigerian conglomerate.
Okay.
There was a story. There was a narrative back then. Yes, I know that the Transcorp story didn't eventually become, because the thought for a lot of people then was that it was going to be like a Nissan. The way, or going to be like a GMC, or, it was going to be like the big, flagship business, Nigerian business, which was going to go to the world.
Yeah.
It might still get there. It's not done.
So let me ask you now, what do you think we should be, like, if they were to call you, Tinubu says, all right, Mr. Tunji, how was your weekend?
What's our slogan?
How was your weekend, by the way? What should be our slogan?
So the thing is, I think one of the greatest assets Nigeria has is its people.
Okay.
And I think both exporting them physically and exporting their services virtually can be a thing we could ride on to create a lot of, economy around it.
So we're exporting the people, isn't that what we do with Japa?
No, not Japa.
Exactly.
So not really Japa. So you call your US bank, right?
Okay.
It's like Rajesh.
Yeah, or customer
it's Rajesh
service.
that's going to pick up the phone, right?
It's routed to India.
You get. So my thinking is, we're already doing that, right? But can we create an economy around it?
Yeah. So like cheap labor.
Not
I guess
really
that's not the word to use, but it is cheap labor, right?
But you have a factory, and these factories that are leaving right now, we're trying to tell them, you can get cheaper labor, you can get more qualified labor here. Come and build your factories here. Come and build here. You don't even have to build here. You want to put your phone centers, set it up here. We're going to set. In fact, don't worry. We'll set up the phone centers for you. But the jobs are here. The people, that English is good. The time zones are perfect. We could do. So we could do a lot around that.
Maybe probably perfect way to segue into one of the other things I want to talk about, which is foreign trade. I think if there's one thing that we probably maybe as Nigerians need to look at the moment, I think it's trade.
Okay.
And that's inter-African trade. I think we've got to make inter-African trade a real cornerstone of our economic growth narrative. We've got to be able to also enhance intra-Nigerian trade as well. So if we're able to champion how goods are being sold across Africa, let's be the hub. I think that would inevitably bring in manufacturing jobs. And then that could just drive, that it's probably what, and what is pretty interesting now is that trade is going east for Nigeria. If you look at our MBS data on foreign trade, you see that we tend to do a lot of import from the east. And why do you think that happens? That happens because as your poverty levels start to drop, people tend to look for cheaper goods. And when they look for cheaper goods, they tend to go east.
Yes.
Right. And so, and then with AFCFTA coming on stream, I think more than anything else, Nigeria needs to be that trade hub in Africa. And I think the banks have also seen this, and also you're seeing a lot of these acquisitions across Africa and Nigerian banks being everywhere. Dude, there's going to be a lot of things to trade.
So
there's water to trade.
Again, this also
trade.
segues back into the conversation about the president. And this is not me trying to... I just feel he needs to be more Nigerian.
Okay.
Now, understand what I mean by Nigerian.
Yeah. Okay.
If you've ever been to any African country and you're in a bar and there are 3 Nigerians, you would know that there are Nigerians in that bar. We're kind of loud, we're expressive. I kind of feel when it comes to like foreign and economic policy on the African scale, Africa is a bit rudderless right now. There's really nobody leading the African conversation, except, of course, Francophone Africa seems to have its own new block of conversations that they're having right now. But Africa is an African unit. There doesn't seem to be someone championing a
But I mean, the trading banks.
Just 1 second.
Okay.
That's a very good point you've made, and I think it's something that we'll probably need to discuss when we come back.
Yeah.
Be right back. All right, welcome back, guys. This is Drinks and Mics, and if you're just watching, by the way, I'm a good trade. It's Tunji, and I've got Arnold here as well. If you're wondering what kind of whiskey we drink, why did I even say it was whiskey? Anyway, I'm sure you can say
it is.
It's not bad. I mean, like people know I'm a whiskey person anyway. So maybe this is one of the things that we're talking about. So when we left, we were talking about what we should be doing as Africans.
On the African bloc.
Yeah. So I mean, do you think this is time for that, Arnold? Should we like have, back then it used to be maybe Gaddafi or Obasanjo or
someone who's champion.
Obasanjo was very good at it.
Zuma.
I mean, I know that Akufo-Addo, the former or current president of Ghana, tried, because Kwame Nkrumah started the whole African Union. Mm-hmm. So he sort of tried to champion the African Union conversation. Yeah. I know that there's different, all these trading banks, Afrexim and the rest.
They're trying to
EFDB have tried to push certain things. Even this whole ACTFA or FACTFA.
ACTA.
Yeah, the trading agreement. But I really don't know and there was the whole, and then with the Francophone guys, there was a lot of talk about a single currency.
Yeah.
I mean, that conversation's been going on since I was in high school.
No, but I think it's even a lot crazy now with the tension going on in those regions. I saw something on TV recently about them, considering, removing the borders amongst them so that they become a stronger bloc.
Okay.
Now that is fantastic in thinking because from what I know, because when you're thinking about Africa expansion, the general thought is that if you can land in one of the Francophone African countries, it makes it easier for you to be able to expand to all of them. Now, if they're a single bloc, it then makes it a lot better. I think. But
that was the whole idea around AFCFTA, anyway,
exactly.
so that you can have free access to markets.
Yes.
And again, like I said, I think it's inevitable that in Africa we embrace some kind of inter-Africa trade.
Yeah.
I hear there's one also popping up in Northern Africa where they're also looking at some kind of trade block as well.
But let me ask you, what's stopping, from your perspective, stopping, because these conversations have been going on
for a bit,
for a very long time.
We're fragmented in Africa.
To the point that now everyone says, okay, it's a payment, it's a currency issue.
Nah.
And then there's this whole PAPS thing that has started that supposedly allows you to, if you're in Ghana and you're in Kenya, you can just buy CDs and pay shillings, and you get shillings without the dollar conversion, or maybe there is, maybe there isn't central bank. So it's what's stopping the intra-Africa trade?
I think there's a lot of policy bottlenecks that still exist among African countries. The concerns around tariff as well. Tariff uniformity is not there yet. Still have different countries charging different tariffs. Being able to also move goods across African countries is still a challenge. Probably easier for you to import things from China than to move things from here to Ghana. Right. So that is still a challenge. Probably cheaper as well. And then of course there's payment issue. You mentioned PAPS, still hasn't gone mainstream yet, so there's still challenges of payment. So you see traders often having to rely on more expensive transfer mechanisms just to get money. So these are just some of the challenges that we have.
But ultimately, it's still political.
So political in the sense that when you say political, the first thing that came to my mind is one country wants to lead it. Right, or champion it
that could be.
But we have the African Union, and just recently the president was in South Africa, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's going to be the next. I think Nigeria's probably going to chair African Union next or something like that.
Okay.
I mean, he has an opportunity to perhaps lead, and even if he's not the one trying, probably lead from behind. So that could be a conversation, and I think it's really going to be a conversation that would pop up whether we like it or not. In fact, one of my outlook for next year is a lot of the geopolitics that you're seeing globally would ultimately lead to a change in the way global trade works.
Okay.
There's always going to be, I think there's going to be a slight adjustment to globalization. So you see countries try to be a bit more jealous with the way they trade with other countries.
Yeah.
Countries are going to be a bit more serious about their, the countries they are happy to have trade surpluses with or trade deficit with and things like that. So that would ultimately change how trade works. And I think Africa is not going to be left behind.
Okay. It's funny because I sort of think the exact opposite with trade globally. I feel like countries are getting more insular. Countries
That's
are getting
what I'm saying.
more.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That's
getting
my
more.
point.
I
It's
don't
gonna
want to trade
change, it's gonna
because it's
adjust.
affecting my jobs.
Exactly.
And it's taking
I
away
don't wanna
my this.
export
I don't
my
want to.
job.
Yeah.
So there's this book, I can't remember the name again, that the guy some professor wrote it, and he was basically espousing this, and he thinks that globalization will probably end.
Yeah.
Right. That
Okay.
this
That's where I think
whole
it's going.
talk around
That's where I think it's going.
Globalization.
Yeah.
I don't think it will end. I just think it will change.
Okay.
Right. So if you look at the way the Chinese and the Indians are doing globalization, it's kind of different. So unlike the West, so the West typically is you have maybe a foreign company comes in here, sets up, starts to do business, employs Nigerians, have Nigerian shareholders and all that, and then they make money, get dividend, and then put it out. So it was more of diplomacy with some kind of commercialization.
Yeah.
But the Chinese have it a little different. So through this their Belt and Road initiative is basically, okay, we come in like we're gonna help you with your infrastructure deficits and come and help you build roads, build rails, but you're gonna use our
people
companies to do that, right? So that way you continue to create some
Jobs
kind
for
of
them.
jobs there and business. And then as you create new avenues, they now move into smaller targeted projects where so imagine that they created rails now. Next thing you see the Chinese probably going to be building power lines around that area so they can power new cities and things like that. So their own model is kind of different.
And never forget that you still give them resources in exchange for the
because nothing is free. And then the thing is,
so that's that's my talk, guys. I mean,
I don't even know
you
if
guys
that's-
like this my trade.
No, because I still don't know if it's that different, because if you look at European countries sort of did the same where they would come in, whether it was cassava, whatever it is, you take a Danish company to manufacture, and then the Danish, whatever it is, the Danish Export-Import Bank will fund it, but they'll still hire locals. So for me, when I see that Belt and Road Initiative, I'm like, is it that different? Is it just because it's...
Yeah.
I don't know.
So the difference is that, unlike the West, theirs don't come with this sort of political
undertone,
strings attached to it.
sanctions
You know what I mean?
and
So
all
the
those
West
things,
has a moral obligation
that's the
want to
difference.
have
to look nice,
democratic governance in
okay, that's the
there
difference.
and all that. So the Chinese
They
don't really
love
care
you
about
as
That's
you
the
come.
difference.
Chinese don't care
They're
about
like
how
They just
Jesus.
come as it is.
They're like Jesus.
So my next
I
topic.
didn't say that.
They're like Jesus. They
My
love
next
you.
topic. My next topic, guys.
Yeah.
Something has been on my mind for a bit.
Okay.
So I was reading the news last weekend,
Okay.
and I heard Google was about coming up with some quantum chip. I know you guys will say, "Man, dude, what?"
No, but it's important. We need to talk about it.
Yeah, so
we need to talk about it.
and
It's
that kind of took
important.
my mind to quantum computing.
Yeah.
Jeez, man. Like,
What does it mean?
are
And-
we getting into a different zone now
yeah.
where things are going to be like different? So it interests me a lot, and if you read a lot of the stuff out there, so quantum computing doesn't necessarily mean that your computers are going to get replaced, all right? Or it's going to do anything different from what your computers are doing. The only difference is that computers are just going to be faster at processing things or solving things. Essentially, you're still going to be able to use your regular computers for anything you're doing today, but quantum computing just makes things faster. For example, it makes hacking faster. For example, I read something, someone said like, man, are they going to be able to hack Bitcoin finally with quantum computing and stuff like that? So,
And also it makes AI
and interesting that quantum,
faster.
and all
It
that.
makes AI faster.
Yeah. So quantum computing essentially, relies on the quantum physics, which is the laws that guide the quantum, which is like the basic essence of life itself.
Yeah.
So apparently, our cells, or like the smallest particle of life, tends to behave in a different way from the physics of the world. Right? Yeah. So the smallest particle of life is strange. So the physical world talks about gravity and things like that, but quantum is completely different. And so just to give you an example, because you're already looking at me curiously.
No.
So I'll give you an example.
Learning right
so
now.
In quantum physics, they tell you things like there's something called the Schrodinger's cat, and essentially what they're saying is that in the Schrodinger's cat example, a cat can be dead and alive at the same time.
At the same time,
Until you look at it. So when you look at it, it's probably alive. And when you look at it, it's dead. So that's how particles behave. So they could be here, they call them superpositions, they could be anywhere. So what these guys have freaking done is they've just harnessed that whole, powers, and then, use that to build, how particles work, and then use that to make, computers work pretty fast. I kind of think that might be the next big thing, but we're probably like 10 years away from that.
I think we're a lot closer.
I think we're closer than that.
I think we're a lot closer, especially with conversations around AI.
Yeah.
And the reason why I think so is, think about the first iteration of the simplest, the most common version, ChatGPT. The first iteration.
But this your watch match. This.
All right. So the first iteration of ChatGPT.
How can we superimpose it? Two places at once, like Schrodinger's cat.
Exactly.
On some levels.
Myris and Yoris at the same time.
So the first iteration of ChatGPT to what we have now, the speed to which we got from here to here shows me that before we even saw this, we're probably halfway already to get here. Or maybe we had even passed here by the time we were told about this. And the ability of AI as of today. So there was a particular situation where they put AI to the test to hack a particular system. And people put all these complex situations around it to try and stop it from getting there. So like the captor, to check if you're human. It actually went out of its way, went to Fiverr, paid someone.
I heard about it.
To get it. Now, think about the kind of machine learning, the kind of evolution of this organism that has gotten to the point where it realizes that, okay, I can't get here. They've created all these barriers. I don't have hands. I don't have legs. So I'm going to have to, find a way to pay Arnold to help me do it. Now, best be sure that as it's paying Arnold, it's thinking that this is inefficient. This is a waste of my time to actually go this way to go and pay Arnold. So I need to get an Arnold. And then you put it side by side with what Elon Musk is doing with the whole, putting chips into people's heads and things like that.
Which I'm actually fascinated about as well.
I'm fascinated about it, but at the same time, side by side, I'm terrified. I'm terrified. I am excited. I'm terrified. But when you talk about supercomputing, what scares the bejesus out of me is I've always felt that the drawback, or at least the handicap of AI, is the computing power behind it.
Okay.
Right? So yes, it can still harness all the, harness several storage houses. But when you now have several supercomputers. I'm terrified though. In an excited way, I'm terrified.
Definitely. But on the break, you're talking about someone listing an IPO.
Yeah, we can call the name, right? So
yes, it's public now, I believe so.
Tizeti.
Okay.
Listed on the NGX. It's great because we were expecting Flutterwave to list at some point. I don't know if it was true. There was some sort of rumor in the back channels that he might list, or at least part list on the NGX. But I think the tech ecosystem is getting to that point where we now need to start looking at local capital
Yeah,
and the NGX is
definitely.
probably the
Definitely.
most efficient way to get local capital.
Definitely. And even in general, the NGX in general, right? So we're seeing all these big guys delisting, right?
Yeah.
Guinness and Lafarge.
Wamco.
So yeah. So whereas
Rapco.
as a trader, as a stock trader and investor, I'm excited because I get to buy undervalued businesses, and then someone comes and buys it, 80% above market. It's wonderful,
Yeah.
but they delist it. Right. So what it means is in the medium
what do you
term,
have left? Yeah.
what do you have left?
Yeah.
So for me, I think everyone should list Nairametrics lists, so we can get some dividends, spread the love, let's buy shares. So I think all local businesses, and also because I've realized that a lot of people just think, debt is the best way to raise capital, commercial paper and go to the bank for loans. But
I don't know, what's the incentive for listing though?
What's the incentive for listing?
Yes, well, I was going to ask this. The liquidity, the debt, the liquidity
raising
debt
capital,
the liquidity debt to the depth in the market.
Yeah.
So if I list, right, my hope is I'm coming into the market, I'm going to raise some capital from selling this equity, right? And if I come into the market, it's the market that also dictates what my price is, right?
Yeah. So
Pretty much to a large extent, right?
Yeah.
So I might want to come in and I want to sell at maybe 100 naira.
And then you get some
you
reality
get
thrown at you.
23 naira.
Yeah. Well,
Now,
someone defined equity as this to me. Equity is debt that you don't have to pay back. So
you pay back. You pay back.
No, not necessarily.
but that's the definition.
Yeah, equity is debt that you don't have to pay back. So the requirements might be stranger depending on whether it's NGX or NASD. NASDX, I believe.
No,
NASD.
NASD.
NASD, sorry.
Please, I hold that dear to my heart.
I apologize. NASD, sorry. I'm in NGX mode. But for me, it's you asking me what are the benefits. For me, it's just access to capital.
Yeah.
You're sitting in front of pension funds, in front of asset managers, in front of retail investors. You have access to all this liquidity coming in. You don't have to rely on one bank saying no to a loan or whatever it is. You have access to all this capital.
Will you be listing at our bar anytime soon? Is that something that is on the horizon for you?
To be honest, we're not at the point where we're thinking about it yet. But I kind of get, just listening to him, I kind of get why. So one of the things that happens when you list on the NGX is that you're no longer that insular business. Yeah. You're now a business in front of everybody. Yeah. That brings its risks, of course, but it also means that it's more difficult to mess with you.
Accountability.
You get. It's more difficult for Nigeria to happen to you. Yeah, it's a lot more difficult for Nigeria to just happen to you. Do you get my point? Because now you are a publicly listed company.
Everyone owns
you are official. Everybody owns it. There's interest.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times when you're trying to build a business that you really want to build because you want it to do something significant in the economy, it's always better to have that system where everybody is kind of a co-owner in the progress of what we're trying to build. So I kind of get what Tizeti is doing. I think a lot more businesses should list. Yeah. And when we get there, maybe we might.
Actually, there've been a lot of listings this year. I mean, I don't want to sounding like his bearish about this thing. Like, man, no. Net, we've actually had, in terms of the market value,
probably more listing than delisting.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than the companies that have listed. So the only problem is that you just got in terms of numbers.
Yeah, so I think it's talking about big players, the headline
the big boys, the Wackos, the Guinness.
You had Aradel list this year.
Yes, which is huge.
A couple of the smaller ones that have listed as well.
Yeah.
And then you've also had some companies also trying to recapitalize, banks also doing the recapitalization. But I hear you, but here's what I think is even more important, guys. I think for that talk about GDP and trying to move Nigeria to a more formal market, I think the sooner the government has a very clear policy that coerces a lot of companies to list on the exchange, I think the better it is for the economy and the closer we are to actually attaining those GDP levels.
I worry at the word coerce.
What sort of policy?
I worry at the word coerce.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What sort of policy would coerce? Yes, that's why I was just trying to play it in my head real quick, and it wasn't computing. Yeah, it's like, what does it mean? If you don't do this, you have to list. If you do this, you have to. Yeah, it's like I was trying to play it in my head.
Give us incentives.
Incentivize
for you to list. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I guess, listen, as NPR keeps keeps going up,
Yeah.
you're incentivized to come to the equity markets for liquidity.
So it's
there you go.
an incentive basically, and I think that the sooner we have a lot more, companies listed on the exchange, the closer we are to getting that $1 trillion GDP levels. Guys, I think that's basically a wrap for this episode of Drinks and Mics.
It's been fun.
It's been good. It's been good. So I hope we do this again.
I look forward to it. I enjoy the conversations. It's been a while since I've actually been in a setting where we had conversations like this. It's
like your radio days.
It's been a while, but I really enjoyed it. All
right, guys. So we do this once every week. So look forward to the next episode again on Drinks and Mics. Until we see again, do have the most profitable week ahead. Bye, everyone.